Hey there YouTube! My name's Robin and I have a lot of feelings and opinions about fairy tales. So follow me for storytelling, poetry, video essays, and hopefully live events. You want in-depth analysis of Disney princess movies, you want original poetry and stories, you want maybe scolding hot takes on things that were published 300 years ago? I'm your guy. That's it, that's the intro. That's the whole video. Okay, fine.
Follow the lanterns that wind through the forest, the flowers that trail beneath towering trees.
Greetings, wayfarers. You've followed the trail of lights to this cozy forest den and found yourself face to face with me, the strange feral soothsayer who lives here. Which is to say, hi, welcome, I put up my Yuletide decorations, let's talk about fairy tales and storytelling. In this house, we believe fairy tales are interesting and important. Why? Because fairy tales are stories about what it fundamentally means to be a person. I don't mean this in a pseudo-Freudian, oh, it's the collective unconscious of the human race kind of way. I mean fairy tales as a genre are the product of oral tradition, centuries of people telling stories to and about each other, and in the process making choices about what themes are meaningful, what images are memorable, and what lessons they want to impart. The oldest surviving stories are the ones that have been repeatedly chosen across changing historical and cultural contexts. Fairy tales are often preoccupied with serious issues: death, sexuality, starvation, family, violence, the rule of law, because those are pretty fundamental aspects of being a person who lives in a society. And yes, alas, we do live in a society. So stories about these things feel important to pass on. Fairy tales also tend towards magic and whimsy, which makes them interesting and more memorable, so they're easier to pass on. Which is how we end up with a corpus of work that on the one hand has these powerful through lines about death and grief and abuse and violence and constant warnings about how to escape and protect yourself, and on the other hand is crammed with off-the-wall bizarre characters and situations. You know, turning straw into gold, making out with frogs, getting into ill-advised bets against animals and weather features and so on. In the oral tradition, fairy tales don't have obvious single authors behind them. Like I said, they're collaborative works, albeit ones where the creative input is anonymous and asynchronous. So these stories can be seen as an act of collective creativity, a medium in which a society, through its individual members, tries to make sense of itself. A fairy tale can be an expression of society wondering aloud about what it could become, telling its people how to function in it as it is now, or even looking back at what it used to be and going, yikes, maybe let's not. It can also be amusing nonsense that enough people liked and shared, much like YouTube videos. Or internet memes. Memes. I do have actual serious opinions about this, but that is analysis for another time. But fairy tales don't come to us as these sort of unfiltered effusions from a shared societal subconscious. They are mediated through the individuals who collect, edit, and retell these stories. So looking at how particular collectors or authors have chosen to frame their different versions of the same basic story can tell us about their values and preoccupations, and give us a snapshot of the cultural norms that they were working within. And then we have the question of newer fairy tales, which do have an identifiable single author. Hans Christian Andersen, for example, didn't collect existing tales like the Grimm brothers did, he wrote them himself, but using the conventions of a literary genre that had been created by the collecting and recording of oral tradition. So that can open up a bunch of ideas about authorship and genre. Writing fairy tales which are not also folklore invites us to better define what fairy tales and folklore actually are, and the differences and relationship between them. Anyway, I think fairy tales are fascinating, both in and of themselves and as a jumping off point to think about other topics. And that can be literary things like tropes and narrative structure, or broader things like belief and politics, or highly specific things like fanfiction, internet memes, tabletop role-playing games, and other artifacts of contemporary pop culture that sometimes get deemed unworthy of study. I guess because too many young people like them. And I really do want to talk about this stuff because fairy tales themselves performed similar social functions and often were dismissed in the same way. And isn't it interesting that something can transform from low culture to high culture just through the passing of time and the changing demographics of who values it? Who gets to decide what is and isn't important, and why is it always old white men? So, in summary, I will be talking about many and various things, approximately clustered around the topic of fairy tales. Cool? Cool. I'll also be using this channel to post some of my own creative work. I write poetry and stories, many of which link into fairy tales, folklore, and mythology. And it's now been a long time since I performed them to a live audience in the same room as me. Yay, thanks pandemic! So those will be appearing intermittently and they'll mostly be short videos. Mostly. I'm also planning to upload a recording of my full-length solo show, The Sleeping Princess. It's a show about patriarchy and the passing on of trauma, and it begins with the tale of Sleeping Beauty. It combines poetry with more traditional storytelling, and I've performed it at various venues and festivals around the UK, including the Edinburgh Fringe. The recording is from the Camden Fringe in 2018, and it was initially intended to be for archive and reference purposes rather than public consumption. But since actual theatrical performance opportunities are now limited to non-existent on this plague-ravaged island, I thought, well, this is a piece of work that I want to put out into the world, and releasing an imperfect live recording that people can access online is better than just letting it gather dust indefinitely. The Sleeping Princess is part of a wider storytelling project that I've been working on for a long time now, titled Red Hoods and Glass Slippers. It involves looking at specific fairy tales and how they might connect to each other, researching their history and symbolism, and really digging into the potential consequences of the strange events in their narratives, both psychologically and socio-politically. What does 100 years of enchanted sleep do to someone and their ability to engage with the waking world again? How does a ban on spinning wheels affect trade and production and culture? What happens to a country when its central government disappears overnight and stays gone for a century? That's the kind of question I like to ask, and then build characters and worlds around the answers. So keep an eye out for Sleeping Princess Expanded Universe. So, you've had 2 small info dumps about my plans for video essay content and for creative content. You may at this point be wondering, who the heck am I and why am I doing this? Who I am, short version. Poet, performer, all-round nerd, fairy tale enthusiast, obsessive player of all kinds of story games, and escaped academic with a background in literature, culture, and gender and sexuality. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them, and if this confuses you, oh well. This isn't a channel about my gender identity. Although, grateful shout out to Elliot Page, who has just greatly increased public visibility for trans masculine people with long hair who use he, they pronouns and continue to play female characters in their creative output. Thanks, buddy, and I love your work. As for why I'm doing this YouTube thing, well, let's circle back to the idea that putting out an imperfect recording of my show is better than putting out no recording of my show. This channel is an attempted exorcism of my perfectionist tendencies. Video essays and live streams are less formal than written work, and I hope, that there's a cap on how exacting I can be with myself when I literally do not have the equipment or experience to turn this into great cinema. I am recording and editing this video on my phone in my living room. But more importantly, the past year has been an apocalyptic hellscape. And Watching people talk about their ideas and interests on YouTube has been one of the ways I've coped with reduced social interactions. I've enjoyed seeing people analysing films and shows and video games, including ones I've never actually consumed myself. I've watched falconers and historical costumers and chefs talk about their fields of study, and it's been really enriching, not just to learn new things, but to see human faces lit up with enthusiasm, talking about what they love. So basically, this online video community has made this horrible year a bit less horrible, and I'd really like to be an active part of that. So, hi again, welcome, and thanks for being here. If you'd like to hear more from me in the future, feel free to subscribe. Bye.
Sleep in the woods with green moss for your bedding, and breathe in the wildness where once you were tame.
I'm very committed to the feral forest witch look, but I'm looking forward to brushing my hair again.